Channel 2, English. 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 Channel 2, English.
Welcome everybody to this S&T press conference here today in Strasbourg. It's my pleasure to have for a special plenary session because we will have, of course, the visit of the rotating EU presidency with Prime Minister Orban. So we will have a special press conference today where our group president Iratxe García Perez will be joined by Klára Dobrev, head of the S&T Hungarian delegation in our group. Iratxe will speak first, and then afterwards Klára Dobrev, and then, of course, there will be time for your questions.
Good morning, dear friends. Buenos días a todos y a todas, y en primer lugar.
Good morning, and let me begin by saying thank you to all of you for being here. And I wanted to begin with a message of solidarity with the families and people who are affected by the flooding in Bosnia-Herzegovina. We're talking about a significant number of fatalities, and we want to show solidarity with the families of the victims. And yesterday we began the plenary session with an institutional statement from the President, and we would like to add our voices to that statement commemorating a year since the Hamas attacks on Israel. So absolute solidarity, absolute support to the victims and the families of the victims of that horrible attack. And we obviously ask for all the hostages to be returned, all of them, and we'd also like to call for peace and an end to violence in the Middle East. The Hamas attack of a year ago unleashed an unprecedented spiral of violence which is now affecting the entire region, and we're going to be holding a debate on that issue in plenary. 1,189 people died that day, and many hostages were taken. These were innocent people, women, children, men as well, of course, and we still have many hostages whose whereabouts are unknown. But we also shouldn't forget the 40,000 dead Palestinians. Gaza has been destroyed and the Middle East is at war, and this is the legacy of Netanyahu. And we, as a political group, would like to call for an immediate ceasefire, the freeing of the hostages, and we'd like to call for humanitarian aid to be allowed into Gaza to put an end to the terrible situation that the people there are in. And that's something that I mentioned this morning during the debate on the preparation of the Council. Now, there are a couple of things that are important for us during this plenary session. We wanted to include them during this parliamentary session, on this parliamentary session's agenda. And what's important is to boost the social dimension during this early period of the parliamentary term. We need to ensure accessible and appropriate housing for everyone, because the increase in the cost of living has become one of the main concerns of European citizens. We've achieved the establishment of a portfolio for housing in the future European Commission, and we also want to commission special studies on the situation with regard to housing in Europe. So we've done that, but now we need to move to action, and we as socialists call for a European plan for accessible housing. In our discussions this week, we need to mobilise all resources at the European level, but also at the national and regional level to deal with this issue. And it's crucial to ensure better conditions for public investment over the long term for accessible, cooperative and social housing. We also have a topical debate, which we have decided on this week, and the debate relates to how to try and reduce inequalities and tax the super rich. A fairer tax system is crucial to guarantee the future of everyone. We need economic growth, yes, but we also need a redistribution of wealth, and this redistribution needs to produce more social cohesion, more equality, more opportunities as well. And this is a debate that we need to hold, and we need to hold in a responsible and rigorous manner so that we can ensure that this question comes to something. We have a powerful tool, taxation. This is another way of applying climate justice as well. The wealthiest pollute the most, and it's the poorest people who produce the least amount of pollution, but who suffer the most. The Brazilian presidency of the G20 proposed a roadmap towards a minimum tax of 2% on the wealth of multi-millionaires, and that would generate between $200 and $250 billion a year. Imagine the policies that we could implement with that kind of funding. I think that would be really a way of moving towards more justice. I'm going to give the floor to my dear colleague Klára Dobrev in a moment. Before I do that, with regard to the Hungarian presidency, the rotating presidency works for our fundamental values and our joint prosperity. That's the idea. But Mr. Orbán represents everything that goes against our European Union. He's showing that during his presidency of the European Council. He's talked about a new pact of European competitiveness, but he's turned Hungary into the most corrupt country in the European Union for the second consecutive year. He's also holding out his hand to the enemies of the European Union. He's working in favour of Chinese and Russian interests rather than supporting democracy and well-being for the citizens of Europe. He's constantly threatening our interests, and that's what we'll be talking about tomorrow in the European Parliament's plenary session, because Mr. Orbán needs to know that the vast majority of Europeans wants to continue to defend our values, and we are against those who want to destroy the European Union project. Let me now give the floor to my colleague Klára Dobrev. She is doing excellent work in Hungary and also here in the European Parliament to defend the rule of law and in favour of and to defend Hungarian citizens. And let me make it very clear that we need to differentiate between Orbán's government and the citizens of Hungary. And all our support and solidarity needs to go to the citizens of Hungary who are also suffering under this anti-European government. Klára, please.
Nagyon szépen köszönöm, és külön köszönöm. Thank you very much, and a special thanks for saying that we Hungarians are Europeans, and Hungary is not equal to Viktor Orbán's government. Now, at this press conference, I should talk about the program of the rotating presidency, but the rotating presidency failed before it started. It is a joke. But we can't laugh because this is harmful to us. It is very painful for us Hungarians to see how the Orbán government behaves in Hungary and in Europe. Let me translate his political populistic nonsense to you. What does it mean when Viktor Orbán talks about competitivity? Look at Hungary. In the past years, he sold out Hungary. We became a plant factory for Chinese. He sold out our most valuable arable land. And there are exploited, underpaid workers and new laws which make the workers' situation close to that of slaves. There's also a very significant demographic problem in Hungary. All those politicians who like Orbán or pro-Orbán are talking about how important families are, how important children are. But let me translate it into you to our own words. There has been never so few children, so few new births in Hungary as today. Never has it been so difficult to raise your child in Hungary as now. The Orban government destroyed healthcare, destroyed education, and maybe you don't all know what is going on in Hungary now, so I'll tell you. The social sector and the local governments, education and healthcare are all supervised by a police minister, the Minister of the Interior, a huge ministry led by a former policeman. And let's talk about migration as well. All populists are so proud when they're talking about stopping migration. But let me tell you that Viktor Orban's leadership, as well as his oligarchs and the members of his family, are inviting tens of thousands of Eastern workers who are exploited in the Chinese battery factories, for instance. This is how he's struggling and fighting against migration. Let me tell you some other things. 2,000 human smugglers were released from prison in the past 1 or 2 years. So Orban is not interested in protecting the external borders. He is interested in creating scandal. The bigger the scandal, the better. And unfortunately, the list is very long, but let me mention something else. Sovereignty. He is so proud of protecting Hungary's sovereignty. But Viktor Orban's government is not a sovereign government. He has lost his sovereignty. He hasn't done anything but protected Russian and Chinese interests in Europe, in Hungary. He sold out Hungary to these two powers. When he vetoed, it didn't serve the interests of the Hungarian people. It served Putin's interests. Whenever he's talking about accession of new member states, he is serving Putin's interests in Serbia, in the Western Balkans, including through the work of his commissioner Oliver Várhelyi. He betrayed our values. Viktor Orban betrayed my country. He is a traitor. He is not the president of Europe.
And Iratxe García Perez, now it's time for your questions. I would suggest we start here. Please indicate to whom your question is and your name and medium. Merci. Thank you.
Question to the both of you, but from Jan Disseldorf from Süddeutsche Zeitung from Germany. About Hungary and Viktor Orban, could you elaborate more on what your message to Orban will be tomorrow in plenary? Because obviously, Iratxe, you're the third one speaking, or the fourth one after, if you count in Ursula von der Leyen.
Pues que Europa se debate en estos.
Well, Europe is currently on a very complex path, and I think we do need to boost the European Union, boost our structures, and boost the message of unity and the fact that we defend the values of the European Union. And that's the opposite of what Mr. Orban has done during recent years, and also during the first few months of the Hungarian rotating presidency. A Europe that defends the rights of its citizens, a Europe based on the rule of law, a Europe that defends diversity and plurality, Europe that ensures that we're able to come together to defend Ukraine in a clear manner against the criminal Putin, and also a Europe that defends democracy, the independence of the media, and human rights. Well, this is the Europe that the vast majority of those of us who are committed to Europe defend in our various ways. But here in the European Parliament, unfortunately, we have several times held debates criticizing the Orban government and what he was doing, not only in Hungary, but also in the European Union, and that's why I want to insist on something that is clear. The fact is that this isn't a position against Hungary. We don't stand against Hungarian citizens. They are paying the price for the lack of responsibility shown by their leader, Mr. Orban. I mean, look at the statements that he's made on Putin, for example. Look at the statements he's made against European diversity and plurality. Look at his actions against the freedom of thought and also against the media. All of this is unacceptable in today's European Union. It's a complex time. Europe needs boosting in terms of everything that established the European project and enable us to grow. I mean, what threatens Europe is populism, and that's represented by Mr. Orban. And that's the point that we're going to make tomorrow. We're going to be defending a Europe of values, a Europe based on equality and justice, and we're going to defend a Europe that shows solidarity to those who most need it. Thank you.
It was to both of you.
Yes, thank you very much. My message is very clear, because I'm speaking not only to Viktor Orban, I'm speaking to the European people and to Hungarian people as well, that our place is in Europe. 1,000 years of Hungarian history taught us that the only place where we can feel safe is Europe. Our destiny is to be European. And we have a leader now who is taking us out slowly but surely from the European Union. Hooksit, as we call it, like Brexit. Hooksit is not such a spectacular like the Brexit was, but it's a slowly movement, slowly undermining the common European values. And this is against the Hungarian interests. I do everything in my power to keep Hungary in the European community with the European values.
Thanks a lot. Do we have more questions? Yes, we go in the back first, in the front first. Okay, you start and then you in the front. Telex, right? I think it's your name.
Balázs Márton, Telex, and I have a question about a Facebook post that a member of the DK party posted before the last postponed debate, and he said that there was a plan to leave the room by the center MEPs, and only those would have remained during the debate with Viktor Orban, who would speak. Is there such a plan? Is it planned for Wednesday's debate? Thank you.
All the time, when a leader comes to the European Parliament, a leader who is undermining our common European values, we have to do a lot more than we do usually in political debates. Symbolism is an important issue in politics. But the European Parliament is famous about debates. It's famous about that we do listen to each other and we do debate and do fight with arguments. That's going to happen tomorrow.
No. It's very clear. We want to confront with Orban about ideas, about values, about policies, and it's a big responsibility for all of us to take part of this debate. Of course, we are organizing maybe some action with other groups in other moments, not during the debate, because during the debate, Orban has to listen what we think about what he's doing at the European Union level.
Thank you very much. Now in the back, please.
Monsieur Mali, journaliste de la télévision kurde.
I'm from Kurdish television. Well, more and more we see that rulings from the European Court of Human Rights are not implemented. The European Union is a full member of the court. Now, given that, what can the European Parliament and the Socialist group do to raise awareness of this issue? Because this is key to European values. I mean, we've had that situation. Russia, Turkey, Hungary, more and more rulings aren't actually implemented. Thank you.
Thank you, Iratxe.
Lo que podemos hacer...
Well, what we can do, what we are doing, is speak out against injustice and hold debates on the various issues that are important to us. A month ago, for example, the Socialist Group proposed a debate on the situation of Afghan women. And we saw that a few days later, the European Court of Justice came out with a very positive ruling on this issue and the right that Afghan women have to asylum. I mean, everyone has their responsibility. The justice system needs to do its work and we need to do ours. The work of this Parliament and the Socialist and Democrat group is to give a voice to these issues, to bring up these injustices and to ensure that we hold debates on them. And we're not always successful. I mean, we propose the debates and then we need a majority in the Conference of Presidents for them to be held. But nevertheless, that's our job and that's our responsibility.
There was a question in the back. Please introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you so much. Zoltán Bugnyár from Hír TV. I'm going to ask Klára Dobrev in Hungarian. Roberto
Metsola 3 weeks ago announced at the beginning of the debate that your immunity will be, so there will be a request for the waiver of your immunity by Hungarian authorities. What has happened? Well, response. So that everything could see clearly in this situation. In the past 1.5 years, really disgusting pedophile crimes were revealed in Hungary. And the perpetrators were, well, hidden or saved or not punished because they were close to Fidesz, close to Orbán's family. These scandals were #1 priority for the Hungarian opposition because week after week, further similar crimes are revealed. The brother of János Áder, former Hungarian president, brought me to court for this. I will be for defamation, but I will be proud to appear before the court because I know that every word of mine was true. Whenever there is a pedophilia, they try to hide these ominous crimes, but I'm not going to let that happen.
Question in the back, please.
Sí, soy Fernanda Gabriel de la televisión portuguesa. Tiene una cuestión. No hay legal.
I have a question from Portuguese television. I mean, isn't it time to do away with these rotating presidencies? Because now we've got Hungary, but there are other countries that have far-right governments, and they'll also have to hold the presidency at some point, won't they?
Tenemos que abordar mucho.
Well, yes, there are many reforms that need to be made to the European Union's decision-making structure. But for us, as I've said, and as I said today in the plenary today, what's a priority for us is to do away with unanimity in the decision-making process when it comes to foreign and defence policy. I mean, I know there are many other issues that need to be raised, but I think our main priority in our political group would be for us to move forward with one single voice in the world. I mean, that would be a way of ensuring that we could be a genuine player in the current geopolitical situation. I think it really is important to do away with the principle of unanimity in security and defence policy. Thank you.
If there are no further questions, one more question in the back, and then I think after that we have to close. Yes, please.
Yes, hello, it's Simone Della Felde, News Italy. I would like to know, even if there's 2 debates on the Middle East in this plenary session, there will be no resolution showing once again the lack of unity of the EU on the matter. I would like to know if you regret this, what's your position on that? Thank you.
Bueno, hemos tenido en algunas ocasiones, es verdad.
Well, it's true that at the end of the past parliamentary term, there was the odd resolution on the situation in the Middle East and the situation in Gaza. But it's true that we haven't really tested trying to come up with a joint resolution now in the new parliamentary term. I mean, the majorities are perhaps more difficult to achieve in this parliament, so I think it's important that we need to look at what the potential result of a resolution of this kind could be before we put it to the test. I mean, at the moment we're working to discuss issues among ourselves to see whether there is a possibility of coming up with a clear resolution among us in the Parliament which can be of use given the current situation. Thank you. I mean, I'd love to have a majority in this Parliament to craft a resolution which would raise all the S&D group priorities. I mean, and I've already mentioned those: immediate ceasefire, freeing the hostages, opening up Gaza for humanitarian assistance, and progress on the two-state solution. I mean, that's our position, and those are our priorities. Were we to have a massive majority in Parliament, then we could move forward with that. But I think we've got a lot of work to do in terms of discussion before we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Iratxe, García, Perez. Thank you, Klára, Dobrev, and have a good continuation of this session. Merci.
English.